main thing that I'm feeling is just gratitude for this experience. And yeah, being able to say that I lived my dream at 24, like that, how lucky am I, you know?
Now, I have to ask you this because this is probably the most asked question I've had all season long, and it shows you the care that's out there. But Jeanine, what happened to your chin out there?
Oh,
Everybody's so concerned
um,
about what happened.
it's so sweet. I mean, honestly, people were like, "Is she well? Like, who is taking care of her? What is happening?" I'm glad I finally get to answer this question. So, the chin scrape happened the first challenge with
Oh
the
no.
log digging. Yeah, so I was honestly suffocating under the log, and the only way that I could live was by scraping my face up against it and like releasing myself that way. And so that's what you saw was like the abrasion from the log. But yeah,
Oh.
it's all healed now, so we are all good. Much to the like up against all odds. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
it is healed.
Now, you've had a rough road on Survivor. It's like you couldn't get good luck unless you bought it. Uh,
No.
were you, I assume you were very surprised to find out the little journey your idol went on.
Oh, yes. I was definitely shocked. I think that as it was devastating to lose the idol,
Yeah.
but it was honestly reviving to know that it didn't just die in a ditch in Dwight's crotch, like it was like, oh, like the amount of time and energy it took for me to assemble it, like at least it didn't die in that way.
Yeah. Now, are you surprised that Dwight did what he did with it? Do you understand his
Yes.
thinking?
I was surprised, and I know that he did what he did actually in an effort to save my idol, which is so sweet. We were very close, and so he
Yeah.
had every intention of wanting it to be returned to me at the end of the day, and he thought that it was actually safer in Jesse's hands than in his because he was scared that people would know that we were so
Yeah.
close and that maybe James would ask for it from him. Yeah, and then the other side of that was that he actually felt like he didn't even want to be tempted to play it because he was like, there's a part of me that maybe would play it if it was on my person. So he
Yeah.
didn't even give himself that. Yeah.
Now, I was talking to Dwight last week, and he settled something. I just wanted to hear from you as well. At
Yeah.
Tribal Council, were you asking for your idol back, or were you checking on him? He says no. She was just checking in with me and making sure that I was okay, and we were touching base with one another. Because
Yeah.
that's what it looked like to me too.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is what it was. We as players understand that when Jeff says if you have an idle advantage, now would be the time to play it
Yeah.
to do so. Like after that window, whatever's on your person is on your person. You are locked into what advantage you have. So I was never trying to get it back from him. It was, I know, too little too late at that point. I was really just like, oh my God, like he was shaking behind me and I'm like, you're okay, you're good, you're good. Obviously he wasn't, but trying to comfort him while he was still beside me.
Now you had obviously what happened to the idol happened to the idol, and but even worse is that Baka. I mean, here you are trying to be the peacemaker. You're trying to
I know, I
keep
tried
all
so
these.
hard. Just keep it together, please.
Yeah, you're trying to like keep all these threads together as they're unraveling before you. Um, what, in your words, what happened, and why couldn't you, mend those breaks, or rebuild those bridges? Because I mean,
Yeah,
you gave it your all.
yeah. Yeah, no, and I think I mean, watching it back, I now understand like how futile that was because it wasn't something that could be mended. Like it truly was this break in mistrust
Yeah,
from early days. Like I had no idea, Ellie had no idea that it was like so early on that Gabler felt like hurt and this betrayal. And so it was really festering, which as a viewer we got to see
yeah,
and culminate to the merge. But because it was like that was only apparent to me at the merge, I was kind of like, okay, well maybe this can still be salvaged. And the Ellie Gabler divide could not have been salvaged. That being said, my relationships with Gabler and with the Baka boys could, because we see us actually voting together on the next vote. But yeah, it was it was it was hard. It was hard to be like, wait, we're not all going to be voting together after we worked so hard to be here and be immune. Yeah.
So you had the idol, you had Baka imploding, and then you had your ally Ellie go home. What that alone must have been very devastating for you, because I mean, you must have felt very much like, well, Baka's in disarray. I'm kind of just floating alone out here on my own.
Absolutely. It was kind of like it. The one person that I felt like I could really trust and rely on out there, was Ellie, and to see her go home was, and to not only see her go home in the context of a controlled Baka tribe environment where I know the other Baka members, but amidst the chaos that is the rest of the merge, it was kind of like, okay, well, this may be devastating to my game, but I have to immediately switch gears and get back into how to go from here, because there are just like so many different ways it can go with so many other players in the game right now.
Yeah, and I spoke to, speaking of Ellie, I spoke to her about, looking for the Gabler's idol and going through his back. And she said, like, there's a lot that you didn't see. It wasn't just like, we didn't just decide to go and do this, and ethically or morally, whatever it is, it's a game. But that wasn't just a snap decision. We really talked about this, and it became really muddy waters. Please kind of lead us through what happened and why it wasn't such an easy decision.
So yeah, it wasn't an easy decision at all. I think when you're out there, you're playing on so many like levels of gameplay that sometimes are like too high to even be good for your game. I think personally, the context that I'll add is that I was told that Gabler wanted me out because he felt least close with me, and so that's why my back really was up against the wall, and I felt like I needed to go through his bag. I don't, again, like doing that. I really was like, I'll never be that person. But given the context of like, I need to know this in order to save myself, made it seem like it was a necessary deed. And I think also on top of that, the idea of, it feels ridiculous watching it to think that he wouldn't look at his note and verify it, but there was a time and place where we didn't know if Gabler he was not faring well physically. If you're not physically there, you're also not there, mentally, emotionally, everything. So there's a lot of factors at play there. And the last thing I'll add, which I think Ellie spoke to, is this idea that we were over trusting in the relationships we had with him and in his reaction to things. Like, up until that point, he had been very upfront with his emotions, wears his heart on his sleeve, will say things as they are. And so if we are to say like, oh, your idol's expired, like, we trusted that his reaction to that would be genuinely what he thought about it. So that's why it came about that way.
Now, looking at, the other members, like, you must have been surprised to see how much Sammy was working behind the scenes last night. And were you shocked by that?
I was surprised about, I mean, obviously I've talked to Sammy and nothing is like groundbreaking, but I was shocked to actually see the level of which he was going to bat for me, because I mean, even at the time, especially at the time out there, I was like, I can't trust Sammy at this point. That was after the Dwight vote. I was like, he might be saying to me that he wants to work with me, but I don't think I can trust it. And then ironically, he's actually the person who's like most wanting to work with me and most wanting to make sure that it's not me who goes home at the end of the day.
Now, I ask this of every survivor I've talked to, and it's just to get some of the other. But obviously, they film 24 hours a day, but we only see so much on TV because it's really edited down. Is there anything about your journey, whether a game move, strategy, a moment you had out there? Is there anything about your journey in particular that you wish people would have seen more of?
Yeah.
Please tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think that Jeff kind of touched upon it in this last trouble, but the idea of the social construct and for whatever reason, our season was very careful and had bought into this construct of okay, like we you cannot stick your neck out too much, you can't play too hard. We saw a lot of players go home for being too strategic or too paranoid or whatever it was. And one thing that I feel like from this episode, it was difficult to watch back because I felt like I was reliving that paralysis of like, oh my God, like I need to be doing more, but at the same
Right.
time, I can't be doing anything. And so it was almost like it made sense that the edit shows like Sammy being my champion because like I almost couldn't do that without putting more of a target on my back or putting people off from wanting to work with me because I was already seen as a strategic threat. Like you saw that as the thread line for why they wanted me out. They were like, she's too strategic. And so anything that I was doing would kind of only further perpetuate that I would be the vote out. And so I think that's one thing that's kind of missing is like, uh, I'm not what I read as maybe being passive
Right.
for my vote out was not I knew that at the time and it wasn't something that I was doing as like a okay, I'm giving up.
Right. Right. Now, you remember the jury and going into that, what are the qualities were you looking for in a winner? What was going on in your mind when you had that very important decision to make at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Without giving
Yeah.
anything away, just
No, exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
No.
what was
And
important to you?
that ties perfectly to what I was just saying, but I was really like I was so frustrated with the social contract. And I was
Right.
like, well, I need someone to get my vote. I was like, it needs to be someone who is going to break outside of that, going to make a big and obvious move and
Right.
not play within this seven safe majority. That was for me, I think the big thing.
Well, Jeanine, it was wonderful talking to you today. It was great to meet you.
Thank
It was
you.
great to watch you, even though it was a struggle, you fought really hard. And I think that's
Um,
one thing you should take away from that is you really played a hard game and you did everything you could, including trying to piece that all back together. But all the best
oh,
to the future.
thank you so
And
much.
thanks for talking to us today. Really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for taking time to talk to me.
No
I hope you
worries.
have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.